Meanwhile, the ANC's caucus in the city of Johannesburg has issued a statement citing concern that the residents of the metro are suffering due to a lack of political direction in terms of service delivery. The party says newly elected DA Mayor Dr. Mpho has not announced the mayoral committee because the coalition partners do not agree with her party's terms and conditions. Here to talk to us about this and more, we're joined now by ANC's Johannesburg caucus leader, Councillor Mpho, as well as Acting Treasurer General of the African Independent Congress, Margaret Arnolds. You're a part of this conversation tonight. Send us your WhatsApp comments, 072-110-5584. We'll take you live tonight. Is it premature for the ANC to call the city leaderless? Or tweet us at Newzroom 405. Good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Yeah, that is really the question. Was that statement not maybe a little bit premature while the negotiations are still going on? To some, the thought of a coalition in Morane is quite attractive. This could be a birth of political consensus with parties working together for the good of the city for a change.
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers of Newzroom. Yes, indeed, as the caucus of the African National Congress, we are worried. But I must emphasize that the African National Congress has won 87 out of their 135 wards. It means 87 constituencies in the city are worried about the status of the city of Johannesburg being without MMCs. On the 22nd of November, the mayor was elected, and congratulations to Mayor Mpho. But to date, 14 days has passed. She has not been sworn in as the mayor. She has not elected the mayoral committee. Services must continue, and if there is a vacuum, officials in the city take advantage. Yeah. And when they know that we don't have leaders, they do other things, and the service delivery will collapse in the city of Johannesburg. Yeah. I can tell you now, when I was elected mayor in Johannesburg, I announced the mayoral committee the same day, and the mayoral committee and myself were sworn in the following day. So it shows that the coalition partners are not agreeing on the coalition agreement, and that is a problem. We are saying the Democratic Alliance must take bold steps and elect their own mayoral committee so that we can work. As the African National Congress, we said we are willing to work with all parties in the city, and we want to make sure that our residents, in particular, the 87 wards that we lead, they have service delivery. Yeah. Right now, we don't know what is happening. It is a mess. We can't accept. I had to issue a statement. We had to issue a statement as the caucus that the Johannesburg is in crisis.
I'll talk to those issues in a moment, why you're saying he's in a crisis. But the mayor, after being elected, I mean, the first thing that I saw her do was to halt all activities, new appointments, new projects. So one would say, well, there's really no opportunity for officials to participate in any activity right now while the mayoral committee has not been constituted.
Well, you put a hold on everything. It means you are putting hold on service delivery. First of all, Section 57 appointments are done by council, are not done by the mayoral committee. She has no right to stop them. She has to allow the process to continue. The appointments must come to the city of council. We as councillors, we must agree. Yeah. Now, if you put on hold, you are saying that everything must be on hold, which for us as the ANC caucus, we find it that she's breaching her responsibilities, or probably she doesn't know her responsibilities. As the mayor, you can't hold Section 56 appointments. And we are also told that the acting city manager has been given a letter that she must vacate. It is the responsibility of the council to do that, not the mayor. And we are worried that the mayor does not have capacity, or probably misinformed or ill-advised. The city is in a crisis, and we are worried, and the people of our constituencies are worried, and the city as we move on, service delivery is being affected.
All right. Margaret, let's bring you in. Have you been in any formal discussions with any party at this particular point? You hold 2 seats in the city of Johannesburg.
Good evening, Thabo. Good evening to my colleague, Mpho Moerane, and good evening to your viewers and listeners. Thabo, we have not been approached by any political party. I think it's because the AIC said it outright that we are not going to be part of any other coalition but the coalition with the ANC. And that is our stance right through the country. We are in a relationship with the ANC and not with anybody else. So we have not been approached by anybody.
Yeah.
But
as the AIC, then, what do you make of the current setup where possibly smaller parties who are kingmakers in this incoming administration could be calling the shots, in essence, wielding a significant influence to determine the council's agenda?
Thabo, where we are now, Mpho was still very elegant about what he said, that we are in a crisis. We are not in a crisis. The city is in a mess. It's in a great mess. As we started off, the mayor walks in one day and she decides to put a moratorium on, as you have said, on vacancies, on everything in the city. She removes people out of the office and she brings in new people into the office. She goes and go to nightclubs to go in and do oversight on nightclubs instead of starting and putting a mayoral committee in place and starting the right work that she needs to do as a mayor. But also, it's an open secret. We know that she is not in agreement with the parties that voted for her. It's also an open secret that the Action SA, the EFF, Freedom Front Plus voted for her. The numbers told you that those are the people that voted and put her into the seat. Now she and the leadership is arrogant and doesn't want to talk to those people. They would rather talk to smaller parties and give smaller parties positions instead of giving to those that had voted for her. Irrespective of who they are, where they're from, she needs to do the honor thing and give those people the positions within her mayoral committee. But spiting those people and being arrogant is allowing the city to suffer. When Councillor Mpho Moerane was the mayor and we left off just before the elections, a day before the elections, we still did accelerated service delivery.
Yeah.
Our freeways, highways are burning. There's no electricity. Water is running slowly. People are flooding in areas. The mayor just doesn't care.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll unpack that a little bit more. That question of electricity, the ANC saying in a statement that this means the city is on cruise control, saying that, for example, the administration had not resolved the Soweto electricity crisis. We'll talk more to that issue. Is it premature for the ANC to call this a crisis? What are your thoughts? 072-110-5584. Your conversation continues. We have the ANC's caucus leader in the city of Johannesburg, Mpho Moerane, as well as AIC Acting Treasurer General Margaret Arnolds. They're calling it a disaster, that what is happening in the city. 14 days on, the MACO has not been constituted and Section 79 committees have not been tabled. This as the Democratic Alliance and other parties are still negotiating the terms of their coalition. As far as you're concerned, you're saying that the mayor has abandoned steps that you had taken to resolve the question of the electricity and non-payment thereof in Soweto. Well, she posted earlier on her Twitter handle that actually today she was in a meeting with Eskom, and her words, was they needed to sort out what is the relationship with the city of Johannesburg in general, but also the Soweto protests in particular. And she says Eskom is finally doing what it should have done years ago, demanding payment from affording residents. And we are in full support of this move. What do you say to it?
Thanks, Thabo. First of all, that meeting was a farce because you can't have a meeting between the city and Eskom and you exclude city power, the electricity entity for the city. That's number one. It shows that the mayor does not have a total understanding on how the city functions. Number two, you can't hold issues of Soweto electricity crisis in a mayor's park. The Eskom and the mayor must go to the people of Soweto and address the people. If the issues of non-payment are a critical issue, go and explain to them. But I can tell you now, without contradiction, Eskom is cutting off people who are paying. They look at an area like Deep Groove Extension 3, they say payment level is sitting below 60%, then they switch off from the mini-sub level. And when I was mayor, I used to fight with Eskom, and I will continue fighting Eskom on the opposition benches. It's wrong, unacceptable, because people who are paying are now suffering. It's wrong, it's unconstitutional, it must be condemned at all costs. Just because the mayor is a DA mayor who looks after your nice suburbs, does not care about the people of Soweto. That's why he can hold the meeting in a boardroom, in the mayor's parlor. I can tell you, Thabo, I've never been into that boardroom when I was mayor. I was on the ground with the people, understanding the people issues. Yeah. She's supposed to be on the ground. She's supposed to be addressing these concerns with the people on the ground. She must supposed to understand.
One can argue to say you might have been on the ground with the people, but the people did not show up at the polls for you. And maybe one could argue that the statement of the ANC in part is an attempt to still want to hold on to power. However, the current setup certainly signifies an inflection point in the country's politics and a sign of things to come, that this is how people want things to be done going forward.
Well, so it wouldn't be depending if that was the case. To answer you, today I can tell you all major roads in Soweto are blocked. It has never happened when the ANC was in power. We would go to the people and address them. They would unblock the roads. They would let public travel freely on the roads. But let me come to your point. The voter apathy during local government elections is a problem, and we accept that. As ANC, we have accepted that it is a problem. But the major issue, we said, if you don't go out and vote, government, in particular local government, will be unable to resolve your issues. And today is a testimony of what we have been saying. And they didn't believe us, unfortunately. They didn't go out in numbers to vote, unfortunately. But we, as the opposition party, we are prepared to help, to assist, to make sure that people of Johannesburg get services, including people of Soweto, Orange Farm, Ivory Park, Fifstone, Alexander Township, and Sandton. We are prepared to make sure the people in the west of Johannesburg, the south of Johannesburg, get services. We knew that from 2016 to 2019, the areas that I have identified did not get proper services. We knew that. And we knew that if we don't get elected to be the majority party, these areas are going to suffer. 14 days, they are suffering. 14 days, they are suffering. But we are saying, our constituency, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we hold the Democratic Alliance to account, to make sure that we get services.
We'll talk more on that and what you plan to do. By the way, let's categorically place it on record that we did reach out to Action SA to be a part of the conversation tonight, as well as to the Democratic Alliance. They're not talking at the moment, I suppose, because those negotiations are still going and at a fragile stage. But as soon as they are available to talk, of course, we'll bring them on so they can give us their views. What do you expect will happen on Thursday, Margaret, at the council meeting?
Well, if there is a council meeting, I don't think we will have a council meeting on Thursday, because negotiations are still, as you said, very fragile. And it's difficult to understand why someone is unable to compile or to put together an executive. And then she says that she's concerned about the city. She acknowledges that there's problems in the city, but for 14 days, we are still hanging. We were a hung municipality, we are still hanging, because we only have 3 people that's in leadership right now: the mayor, the speaker, and the whip. There's no one else, and trees are falling. People are still writing and saying, MMC Arnold's, the trees has fallen. What can Margaret Arnold's do now? She's an ordinary councillor. So I think, I really think that if the DA was serious, we would have by now have had an executive, and we would have had our meeting on Thursday where we could put Section 79s in place. But we cannot be getting notices on Wednesday evening for a Thursday meeting. And that also shows that the DA is unable to run the administration of the city. And yes, as my colleague Mpoya said, people are taking meetings to boardrooms. The boardroom is not the place where you're going to solve the issues. You need to come down to the ground, come from your high throne, come down to the ground, put on your tackies, put on your boots, and come and work on the ground and see what people are going through.
Right.
It's not the leafy suburb where she lives in Pretoria. Come out to Soweto and see what's happening in Soweto. We are in a mess. We're not in a crisis. We're in a mess. And if she and the party does not take the arrogance and put it one side and decide to speak to those that has put her in place, we are heading for a big disaster, for a big mess. Yeah. And I don't think the Democratic Alliance would last.
Well, she is the mayor. She's already been elected. There's nothing holding her back from appointing her maker, right? She can put whoever she wants there. Do you think the Democratic Alliance has the appetite to freestyle this thing and hope for the best?
I think, Thabo, what is happening here is they are unable to deal with their partners, to deal with the people that has put her there. They are unable to say and be firm and say, this is what we are giving you and this is where we are going to. What they want is what they want, and it's not what the partners want. It's almost a marriage of saying, I'm getting married to you, but I need to have your sister in my bed. That's what's actually happening here. It's not a marriage of, I'm getting married to you and we'll go through thick and thin. No. I'm getting married to you, but I really, really want to have your sister as my wife.
Let's talk this then, Mpoberane. Do you think the DA is going to freestyle this and hope for the best? They have initially said they don't want to lead without agreements in place, but it seems they are having a challenge putting those agreements in place.
Indeed, Thabo, they have a serious challenge, and they are making calculations in terms of numbers to make sure that as government they can pass the budget. And I can tell you now that their freestyle is not going to work. You need us as big parties like the African National Congress. We have 91 seats. We have 87 out of the 135 wards to pass the budget. And I can tell you now, if our wards are not taken care of, we are not going to support that budget. We are not going to support any appointments that does not talk to the demographics of the city of Johannesburg. And I can say, Thabo, as a leader of the ANC caucus, we are the opposition, and we want to work with all parties to make sure that Johannesburg becomes the world African city. We're not going to abandon the slogan, even if we are on the opposition benches. It is our responsibility to make sure that the city is functional, is solvent, is liquidity, because when we take over in a year's time, we want to find it in a better space.
We thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus, Margaret Arnold, as well as Mpho Morane, councillors in the city of Johannesburg.